I'm going to have a therapist, an expert coming along, talk about parents, how to build relationship with your parents, how to deal with toxic parents, the middle child. How do you feel as a middle child? How do you feel when you're an oldest child? How do you feel when you're the youngest child? All the biases that parents make. How to get the best out of your relationship with your parents so you can have your parents as friends and knowing exactly how to behave. So I'm going to get the expert on. Her name's Susanna. She is going to help me. I'm going to ask her some of the questions you asked me in the stories. I got your first 10 questions ready on my laptop. Don't worry, I'm not going to shout you out because I know some of the questions could be quite private. So that's okay. Quick shout out. Let's see who's in the building. Jody. Who else we got? Lil. MB Bachmovid. JK Jennings. Taliana Jones. I have two brothers. Okay, so how the guys work? I'm going to get Susanna on. She's going to share a little bit of a story. Then we're going to go straight into your questions. And then we're going to answer the questions in real time for you about parents, how to build a relationship with parents. What can you do to improve your relationship with parents? Okay? So let's get Susanna on. And parents, if you're watching this, then I want to see your perspective. Hey, Susanna.
Hey.
How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
And how are you guys?
Welcome. Thank you for coming along. I'm going to be taking notes and see how you can help me as well as help these people on here.
Yeah.
So Susanna is family coach, family therapist. How would you like to be known?
Actually, I'm a therapist and a coach working with the adult children of toxic parents. Basically, the toxic parent subject is my specialty. So yeah, this is what we are going to touch also today.
Brilliant. Okay. And, I don't know if you see my story. I've not had the best parents in the world. At a certain age, 21, I had to make a decision. Hey, do you want to carry on being held by this ball and chain around my ankle and being dragged all the way back into negativity, into this cess of negativity? Or do I cut the chain and go, hey, do you know what? This is my life. I'm going to take ownership of my life and head into the direction I'm going to surround myself with the people that I care about. So having said that, I want to know your story. Was there a moment where you just go, hey, do you know what? I need to cut this off, cut the ties?
Yeah, there was actually, and I wish I had done it as early as you did, but unfortunately in my experience, it was when I was, I think 32. So it was like a few years ago only. And it happened by accident because, the things with toxic families is that you don't really realize that it's toxic until, for example, for accident, you find out, like I was in the office and we were listening to the radio and there was an interview with the therapist and she was talking about parentification. This is the situation where the child takes care of the parent instead of the other way around, like it should be. And all of a sudden, I'm 32 and I'm like, damn, this is my case. And I started reading about it and I started learning about it. I became a therapist, first a coach, then a therapist. And I started to first dealing with my relationship to my mom. And actually we managed to really get it going smoothly after a few years, which is, I think, a great success. And and I became therapist helping people do the same.
Wow. So you came to the point in your life where you felt the need to take care of your mum. Is it mentally and physically, or is it just mentally and supportive?
Actually, it was a mental and emotional support, and I wasn't aware of that because when she was demanding it from me, I think it started really early on, but the first memories I have from it, I was like 5. And it was normal, because I was just, this is how it was. So I thought that whatever she does is normal, natural, and right. So it was just what was happening. She had some problems with organizing and taking care of her life, and she was depending and relying on me. She wasn't talking to her friends, she was talking to me, you know, the little girl. So I was just used to it, and yeah, I was feeling responsible for her, actually, for her well-being, and yeah, for her life.
Got it. Do you know what? I'm from Lithuania, which is post-Soviet Union, and you're from Poland, right?
Yeah.
In those countries, and by the way, India and those countries around the world, parent is God in most cases, right? So you have no choice as a child to feel sometimes a burden to take care of your parent, whether you like it or not. There's like a guilt thing. Now, I want to ask you, was it healthy that you're taking care of your parent? Was it controlled on your own terms? Or is it like, oh, I feel guilty, I need to take care of my mom?
Well, yeah, actually there was guilt, because I really felt, being a child, I felt responsible for her. I felt that if she doesn't, like when she didn't feel good, or, you know, when she wasn't happy, I kind of felt that it's my fault. Like I should do something to make her feel happy. And the truth is, which I found out pretty late in my life, unfortunately, that, like you said at the beginning, every adult person is responsible for their life. You can't be responsible for anyone, actually, especially your parents, who should be responsible for you and who should take care of you and who should provide the emotional support to you, not the other way around.
Exactly. And especially if you're under 18, like, come on.
Of course.
You can't drive, you can't get a job, but you can support a parent. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Right. Okay, Susanna, I know we've got some questions. I know people want to hear the answers to the questions. If you've been voting on my story, then we will answer your questions right now. So thank you very much for those of you who voted on my story. I'm also going to be answering questions in real time, so stick around for that one towards the end. Susanna, what we got as the first one?
Okay, the first one is how to make a strong bond with my parents. So yeah, it's kind of what we touched before, that the parents are basically responsible for the relationship, for the quality of the relationship between the children and parents. So if you don't have this bond with them, first of all, just know that it's not your fault and it's not really your responsibility. If you feel that you could have and you want to have a stronger bond with them, just kind of try to figure out what's going on. Try to open up to them. It's like you make a bond with anyone. You open up, you try sharing stuff, and you see what's the reaction from your parents. If it's like, if you see that you share stuff to them, you're open up to them, and you don't get, for example, respect, and you're not being heard, basically stop doing that. Because if they are not ready to give you the attention and the respect that you should be having from day one, you know, then they're just not able to give it to you. So like you, Alex, said, you just cut the ties. I mean, I'm not telling you to cut the ties with your parents, because maybe you're underage, so you know. But as soon as you're independent, just and even before, you know, you have your friends to make bonds with, if your parents aren't ready for that. Just because at some point you get to choose your family, you know, you choose to get the people who are around you. You choose people who support you, who accept you for who you are. So if you don't get from your parents, make some effort if you feel like this is what you need and what you want. But if you don't get it, just realize that this is who they are. I'm not gonna get it from them, and just start looking for a support group outside of the family.
Got it. Okay. I want to touch on that as well. The question was, how do I create a bond with my parents, right?
Yeah.
And here's a good example. This is what I would do, okay? And by all means, I'm not an expert. So if you're struggling with a bond, right? Listen up. Your parents, in my opinion, should lead by example. Parents that lead by example command a natural respect, and respect that is not forced on, because they shine through their example. But if your parent says, oh, do you know what, don't smoke, and end up smoking themselves, what does that tell you? Your dad's a fucking dick. by saying that, right? Your dad's a hypocrite. So how can you inspire someone? How can you inspire someone to be, hey, be a good student? That's what a lot of sort of parents say. Hey, were you a good student? No. So why are you telling me that? So by leading by example is a key to identifying whether your parent is, does he talk the talk or does he walk the walk? Or does he just talk? And that's something that I've realized. So that's my thing.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I want to add to that because like this is actually, this relates to each relationship that you have in your life, because people can tell you anything. Like I can tell you anything right now, but if I act in the opposite way, the words don't mean much. They don't mean anything, you know. The words only matter if the actions are matching the words.
Exactly.
Just remember
I just
that.
want to address something in real time. But Matt said I shouldn't have cursed. It's how I speak. It's the way I would express myself. It's the way, if somebody feels offended, they're welcome to leave. I personally don't feel that cursing is a big deal, right? Because it's semantics. And for example, I can't express myself, say, hey, I really care about you. I would say, I really fucking care about you. It's just how I speak. So if somebody's offended by the cursing, guess what? This life is not for you. Just a quick disclaimer out there, okay?
Yeah.
I'm a very big fan, Susanna, of addressing the comment of, let's say, somebody's offended, right? This is not the place if you get easily offended, okay? We're talking about parents, we're talking about relationship, we're talking about things being in friction. Susanna, what's the next question?
Next one is, I love my mom so much. She does too. She buys and does everything for me, but we don't talk much. Well, this is the similar situation. Like, try to open up to her. Try to tell her, listen, like, I love talking to you. Like, if you have the conversation, if you have the connection, tell her, oh, I appreciate our talk and the way we had our day today. I really love to spend time with you, talking to you and just, you know, bonding, and see what happens. See if she continues, if she's also into it. If it's only one-sided and if it comes from you, then I imagine that it's painful, and I feel really sorry if that's what's going on. But if the parent doesn't give it to you, it means that they just can't. They are just unable to give it to you because probably their parents didn't teach them how to do it. But it's not really your problem. It's their responsibility. They are your parents. And somebody here wrote that all kids deserve parents, but not all parents deserve children. And this is basically what's going on, that, you know, parents are responsible for our relationship, because we, being kids and teenagers, we are totally dependent on them, and it's up to them how they program us, basically, and how they bond with us, how they connect to us. And as you, Alex, said earlier, like, if they weren't able to make a bond until you're 18 or 20, then what do they expect? They can't demand respect or attention from you if they didn't build it themselves. So going back to the question, just, try telling her what's important to you, tell her about your feelings, and see how she reacts. If she's open to that, if she's open to you know, sharing more time with you and talking to you, that's great. But if not, just, you know, look for attention and this bond outside with your friends, with some mentors. Just look outside.
And watch how carefully they listen. Because people don't like to listen. They like to talk about themselves. They like to be the guru on the mountain. Watch this, guys. This conversation between me and Susanna, it's back and forth. It's listening, responding, reacting to the comments. If your parent goes, da 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 da, and it's just all day long, and it's not communication. It's just monotone talking at you. So listening is key, especially when building a relationship. Okay, what we got next?
My parents control practically everything in my life. What do I do? Well, I don't know how old you are, the person who asked the question, but, you know, basically parents' duty is to give you love, respect, care, physical, you know, all your physical needs also should be met, of course. And the older you get, the more independence and freedom you should achieve. So if you are still under their care, if you are still under 18, it's kind of natural that they control you, but you're saying that they control practically everything you do. Well, the thing is that, like I said, the older you get, the control and the care should be less and less. You should get more and more freedom. So if you see that it's not there, that you still, like, they treat you, like, for example, you're, I don't know, 15 and they still treat you like you're 8 or something like that, then it's not really good for you and for them, actually, because they should give you more and more freedom. What you could do, you could actually Google helicopter parenting and overprotective parents. Maybe you could Google it and find some really like relevant articles about that and just send it to them, so they read about it and become educated that it's not how they should act, and it's not actually good either for you or for your relationship with your parents. Maybe that would help.
Yes, the helicopter parents. We actually had the question on helicopter parents, and the question was, do I have helicopter parents? And no, quite the opposite. My parents didn't give a fuck about anything, and they just left me to my own devices, and that's how I became addicted. So, but helicopter parents, this is my amateur, definition, is somebody's too overprotective. You can't go out because it's 12 degrees outside. You need to wrap up, and then you'd be sweating underneath and getting cold anyway. And be like, oh, look, you see, you didn't wrap up anyway. So is that what helicopter parents are? But literally like a helicopter over you. Is that true?
Yeah, that's exactly it. They are controlling every step you take. You can't make your own decisions, and it's like it really influences your whole life when you become an adult. The way you enter romantic relationships, the way you behave at work, the way you reach for your dreams. You have very little self-awareness. You don't take responsibility for your life. It's not a good thing to do. I mean, neglect is also, of course, a huge parent's mistake, but those are, two different sides of the spectrum, neglect and overprotectiveness, but it gives the same issues to an adult later in life, unfortunately.
Yes. And one thing I wanted to say is this is for parents as well, right? So some kids think they're entitled to behave how they want and still take money from their parents, especially if you're 18, you can get a job, or even worse, if you're 21 and living under your parents' roof, and then you have the audacity to bark orders at them whilst being on their payroll every month, right? Oh, I need a new car. Oh, I need new clothes, right? So this is the thing for parents that I feel sorry for. It's like, well, if you don't like it, get off the payroll and stand up on your own 2 feet. I don't know, what do you think of that? Because that's quite interesting.
That's interesting, and that's actually quite common, because it can also be a kind of a tricky way of being manipulated by parents. Like, I give you money, you don't have to work. You can stay under my roof, but you need to do whatever I tell you, in a way. You need to behave a certain way, or this is the case with parents who were a victim of parentification that we were talking about before, that the parent needs the emotional support, needs the child to be next to him or her, so by giving you money and keeping you in the house and not letting you become your own woman and man when you're adult, they just keep you close to make themselves happy, making you miserable, but you don't even realize that, because on the other hand, you have roof over your head, you don't have to pay the rent, you get money, it's really comfortable, you have your laundry cleaned and dinner cooked, but it's tricky. Be careful for that. I mean, watch out.
Yes, and do you think a child that all of a sudden turns 18 years old will become a man-child or a woman-child just because you're 18, but if you've been cotton wrapped all your life and then boom, 18 hits, your passport hits 18, you're still a man-child, right? If you don't have any responsibility. Of course.
Yeah. Like, the children need, well, basically kids need boundaries and they need responsibilities. Like, more and more the more they age, the more responsibilities and freedom they should get, because you need to learn how to behave in an adult world. You need to learn how to be responsible. You need to make mistakes to know how to handle them. It's all learning. You just need it. Parents can't protect you forever, you know, because eventually they will die and you will end up being 50 and not knowing. I know such people, actually, guys. They are 50 and they don't know how to get from one place to another in the city, having a cell phone with Google Maps and everything else, you know. So yeah, it's kind of scary, actually.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, let's, Sanana, could you answer this from Colbeck with Spencer? Could you share some things with your parents that you would normally do with friends your own age? So I think that the emphasis on this question is, how can I build a relationship with my parents in the same way I have a relationship with my friends?
It's kind of tricky and it's kind of impossible. I mean, it is possible when you are adults, when you are an adult and your parents are adults, but when you are younger, actually being friends with your parents is not that good. Like, I hear sometimes people telling me that they were partying with their parents. They were, I don't know, smoking joints, drinking alcohol when they were underage with their parents. It seems cool and fun, but it's really not, because parents need to be like, you know, it needs to be a mother figure and a father figure. It needs to be somebody who is respected and who shows you the way. When you're an adult, do whatever you want. It's your responsibility. You can do anything, and it's your decision. It's all up to you. You decide if it's good for you or not. But when you're a child, everything that parents does for you is okay. So yeah, but when you're an adult and your relationship and the bond was created by your parents in your childhood, then great. If you are friends, I mean, naturally you become friends with your parents when the bond was there, and when the respect, the mutual respect and openness was there, then you're automatically friends with your parents.
So would you say there's like an activity, or there's a way somebody could find common ground and look for ways to establish common ground and activities and build relationship that way? Because how do people make friends outside of school? Well, they do the same stuff together, right? If you go play football or basketball, there's a community there. You make friends. After basketball game, you go out, whatever, to a park together, swimming, whatever.
Yeah,
so do you think it's the same thing goes for the parents?
Yeah, exactly. You can do it, but like whatever you do, the thing also within the friendship outside of the family, let's say, who is a friend? Is a person who is loyal to you, who respects you, who is open to you, who accepts you as you are. So if you have it with your parents, that means you are friends automatically. But it needs to come from them first, because they created you and they are raising you from day one, and they are showing you the respect, the care, the love, unconditional love, and the acceptance of who you are and the way you are. So yeah, if it's there, then it's there.
Yeah, I agree. I think majority responsibility has to come from parents, because they've got 20, 30 years on you.
Yeah.
But having said that, by asking things, oh, how's so-and-so? How's your day? Oh, did you go to this? Having 2-step, 3-step questions on what they do, your parents, that is, will give them, oh, my son does give a shit. Right, that's a penny that will drop. Now, the next question is from Socket. Socket Toby, how do you get along with your siblings? Let's talk about middle sibling, elder sibling, and younger sibling. How would you get along with the sibling if you're a middle child? Because I've seen there's a middle child syndrome going around, right? How does that work if you're a middle child? How do you get along?
Well, basically it's the same like every relationship. We kind of discussed it before, but actually, yeah, the middle child is a kind of a phenomenon, actually, because, you know, the first child that is being born within a family is usually the one who is you know, who gets kind of the most respect in the way that respect, but also parents are more demanding. This child, it's kind of like a hero. The responsibility is kind of on him. He usually is more successful. Then there is the youngest child who is like a, you know, like a mascot, like a, kind of like a joker, like funny, sweet, you know, the sweetest child. And then there is a middle child, and like this, the hero part, the responsible child is taken. This part is taken, the role. The mascot, the sweet child role is taken. So there is a little middle child left, and it's kind of hard being in this role, because what can you do to get the attention? And sometimes within the toxic and dysfunctional families, the middle children became the scapegoats, and it's really well, all of the roles in toxic families have their huge disadvantages, but this one is especially kind of marked, because well, the thing with the scapegoat is that they say how it is. They say that, oh, I don't like what you're doing. I don't like that you're fighting all the time. This is what the kid says to the parent, right? And the parents don't want to hear that, because they are like, I am right. I am your parent, right? Like in toxic families, parents don't really pay attention to the child's needs. So it can also be the middle child can also become, you know, there's problems with authority, with listening to other people, with obliging.
May I interrupt? Sorry, Susanna.
Yeah.
Why is the middle child is a scapegoat?
Because the oldest sibling is a hero, is kind of like the responsible one. The youngest is the sweet, you know, the joker. We can have fun. You know, I will make jokes to make my parents feel happy. And, you know, those roles are taken. So what else can you do to get the attention of your parents?
Is that more down to nature? Of, look, out of 1,000 parents, 900 will have that middle child as a scapegoat? Is that just statistics? Or is it just unconscious bias parent that takes that position of saying, hey, middle child kid is going to be the scapegoat?
I think it's both, actually, because you know that the way we are raised and the way our genes is like 50-50, nature and nurture. So it's like, it's both. It's both. It's really complicated, because, you know, the family system in general is complicated. It's complicated because, like, your mother has her own childhood. Your father has his childhood, and then they are bringing all of that, and the awareness wasn't as high as it is now. Like, they didn't have the access to the internet and all the articles that you can read about anything actually in the world. And they are bringing toxic behaviors and dysfunctional behaviors, and they are making a new family out of this, and they are, you know, having kids, and they are kind of pushing all of that on them.
Got it. Okay. Lucy, I'm going to answer your question in a second. I know you have more questions that are not answered from your phone, right? Susanna, we've got 2 or 3 more, right?
Yeah, there are 2 actually. Why are my parents kinder to my little sister than me? Hard to say why. It's a matter of like a in-depth conversation. But if they are kinder to your sister than you, it shouldn't be like this. This is a toxic behavior, and it can lead to lower self-esteem, actually, of both you and your sister. Even the child who is, you know, praised also develops lower self-esteem later in life. So yeah, it's like, first of all, just know that it shouldn't be like this, and it shouldn't be right. And whatever you are doing, you are okay, and you are great the way you are. And this is just your parents', you know, behavioral error to treat you worse than your sister. Yeah, and you know, the thing is that it's kind of unconscious. Like I said earlier, genes and your temperament is what you are born with. And it's easier for a parent to be nicer to a sibling that resembles them more. Like I am more outgoing and my daughter is more outgoing and my son is, you know, more closed up person. I unconsciously can relate to my daughter more because she's just like me. I just understand her, but it shouldn't be like this, you know.
Yes.
Both siblings and all of the siblings should get the same amount of attention, love, and acceptance.
Yes, but unfortunately humans don't work that way. There's such thing as called cognitive biases. So
Yeah.
one of the cognitive biases is a relatability bias. So if somebody relates to you better because you have more common ground, therefore you'll take this favor for them. You'll do favors for them because in survivals, if you go back to caveman times, if you relate to somebody, your more chances of survival increases because if you relate to them, they're not going to kill you. Right?
Yeah.
So that's how our brain is still wired. Relatability bias. Let's say the older sibling is doing something better in terms of career. That could be social proof. So social proof bias. Oh, look, the older sibling's getting straight A's and now you're getting early C's. And that's social proof that older sibling's better. Another thing social proof is you can have good social proof and that social proof can be short-lived and it's not long-term thing that they're doing. So yeah. I wouldn't go off just social proof. Now, Lucy got a good question. How do you get along with a dad who tells your stuff like you're getting a job because of dyslexia? Can you see the question?
I see the question, but I don't really get it. Like,
okay. So I think what she means is dyslexia is...
Yeah. I know.
Right?
But you're getting a job because of dyslexia or not getting a job? Because I don't really see the relation here. But maybe you know better. Tell me what you think about this question, how you interpret it.
Probably in Poland, it's not a thing. In England, and I don't know if America's a thing, in England, if certain employers, big employers, have to have certain amount of disabled, Black people, gay people, transgender people, just to play the corporate brand, right? So in her Lucy's question is saying, her dad's saying you're only getting a job because you're disabled, pretty much.
Yeah, I get it. Well, I'm sorry, Lucy, to hear that because that's pretty toxic of your dad to say, you know, because it's like... it can really bring you down. It's not supportive. It's not respectful. Like, why? What good can it bring? You know, telling you that stuff. That's pretty toxic. Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, you know, guys, you should know that everybody who is bringing you down, either it's your peers, your parents, your siblings, whoever. If somebody has the need to bring other people down, that means that they themselves have very, very low self-esteem, and this is their way to make themselves feel better, which is really pitiful if it's parents doing it to their children. So just be aware of that, Lucy, and just, you know, do your thing. You are worthy and you are great as you are, you know.
By the way, Lucy, I want you to do me a favor. Google after this dyslexic people, Einstein, Tom Cruise, bunch of others. Richard Branson is one of them. Google dyslexic people and Google the correlation between dyslexia and creativity. Not in all cases. There's a good TED talk, Lucy. Dyslexia and creativity, the correlation. And how the reason why you're dyslexic is because apparently the neurons are spaced either further out, and as they space further out, the neurotransmitters have a harder time of processing information. So therefore you lack the cognitive ability in mathematics, let's say. But the pro of that is that are more creative, right? You are more, for example, I hear the damn clock behind me, tick tock, because my senses are heightened because I'm dyslexic, right? But if somebody goes to me, hey, turn left, turn right, go around the roundabout, I'm gone, mate. I'm done. And that could be interpreted as stupid. So good question. I know you have some more, Susanna. What have we got next?
Yeah, I have two more, but they are really similar. first one is, why do they yell? And the second one is, why does my mom always shout at me for no reason? Well, anger is based on fear. There is no anger if there is no fear. So I don't know why your particular moms are yelling at you and your parents are yelling at you, but it might be that they feel that they can't control you the way they could when you were younger, or they are frustrated because of their job. Many things underneath. Anyway, the anger should be addressed in a proper way. Shouting is not the best way to express anger. So they shouldn't, basically they shouldn't shout at you or at whoever, but on the other hand, everyone, like each of us is just a regular person. Your parents are just people, they're not perfect. It happens. But when they are shouting at you all the time, that's also toxic. It shouldn't be like this. There's a way to talk about everything if there is a mutual respect and openness.
Yes, and that's a good thing to remember is having empathy of first few times. Maybe they had a hard day at work. Have you asked them what's going on in their life? Have you had the audacity to reflect and go, oh, but maybe they've got some shit going on in their life. Maybe my dad is living paycheck to paycheck, and that's the reason why he's having misplaced anger towards me and shouting at me, right? It's having that awareness of asking 1 or 2 questions. Hey, Dad, how was your day? Oh, so and so happened. Oh, really? Why did it happen? Oh, that could shift the direction of being shouted at the next day and not. Because you know why? Because you gave a fuck. Sorry. So where every time I give a shit about a person, a stranger, not somebody I know, their eyes light up. You give a shit? Yes, I do. Do you want any money from me? No, I don't. Damn. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what I would say. Now, like you said, if that's consistent, if they're always shouting at you, they're always putting you down, it's a different thing. But you have to make a correct assessment. And you could be 12. You're like, what the hell is assessment? How do I make this correct assessment? Well, be observant. You have eyes, you have ears. Yes, you can't move out, but be observant. Be observant of what's happening.
And also, I would add, try not to get triggered by their anger or the anger of anyone, actually. If anyone is shouting at you, try not to get triggered. Try not to react the same way that they do. Instead, you can say, oh, you seem to be angry or you seem to be nervous. Can I, like you said, Alex, what happened? Or just that, you seem angry. Yeah. Nothing. And just wait what happens.
Yes. And do you know why people have dogs, right? Do you know why people have dogs? Because dogs care. Yeah. Dogs care. Dogs come up to you and go, well-trained dogs anyway, and they care. They look like they're worried for you. Why is a dog called man's best friend? It's because they give a shit. Why do people are not called man's best friend? Because majority of them don't give a shit, right? Yeah. So act like a dog.
Yeah, it's joking. An advice.
But it's an example. So yeah. Now, next question, Susanna. Vingy, I am feeling alone. Here I am live. Vingy204, thank you for your question. I'm feeling alone even when people are at home. What do I do?
Well, I think I already kind of answered that. If you make an effort and if you try to get close to your family, your siblings and the people at home with you, if you start conversations, you show them that they care, but they don't really react and they don't reciprocate that means that they are just not able to give you attention, the love and the care that you need. So just stick to your friends, stick to the people and look for the people who just appreciate you, who like to spend time with you, who like to talk to you and that you don't feel alone with. Just choose your family. If your family is not mature enough to give you the respect, the love and openness and acceptance, then just look for it within your friends and peer groups and, other people, basically.
Yes, Viggy, this is how to think. Think about, there are 7 billion people on Earth. What are the chances that you're going to be born into a family that are your friends? 1 in 7 billion.
Yeah.
So why do you think you should feel like you're having a best party at home with your parents, right? And that's how I would think about it. Now, does that mean you can't create friends? Of course you can. But the chances of your family being as good as being your friends, and depending how old you are, there's the stage when you're 15, you didn't want to be your parents. It's embarrassing, right? The last thing I want to do is be my mom at 15, right?
Yeah.
So it depends how old you are, and think about that perspective thing. It's all about perspective. 7 billion people on Earth. Why the hell do you think they're going to be your friends? Why? Right? That's how you're going to think about it. Now, what's the next one? I think we've got one more or two more.
No, I don't. Yeah, I actually. Yeah, no. There is a question about helicopter parents, but we already answered that. So yes. I'm done with mine.
Okay, brilliant. Let me see if I've got a good one on here. It's all about basically parents attacking them. And again, sometimes it's not an attack from the parents. Sometimes you're being butthurt and being entitled and, feeling sorry for yourself. Nobody can tell you that on the live. There is an assessment involved with a therapist. There's details to be taken from both sides. And then only through assessment can somebody say, hey, do you know, dad's over the top. Or do you know what? Yeah. A child should take more responsibility. So all these questions, why so-and-so is yelling at me, and things like that, nobody can tell you that on the spot. Now, let's take on the other extreme end, which is somebody said, my parents are very strict and discipline me and are violent since I was 5. Let's take the worst case scenario. Your parents beating you. It's violence. You're 13 years old. What do you do?
Well, that's actually criminal. So I don't know what's the law in your country, but it's against the law. It's like in Poland, you can't do it. If the child calls the police comes and they start procedures, basically kind of procedures against the parents. If the parent is violent, there's not much that the child can do. Either it's emotional, physical or sexual violence, because, it can be really a plethora of behaviors. But it's like, if it's like physical violence, I would call the police actually. Or I don't know, maybe you have some local community leader, religious leader that you can turn to, that you can feel that you can trust and turn to with this problem, or some other family member that can support you, like your grandparents or your uncle, your aunt. You can talk to them first, but just remember, it's criminal. It shouldn't be like this. It's just against the law.
Yes, and in England we have a line. It's called Samaritans, and it's a line for mental health. It's free line. You can call them if your parents are being violent to you physically. You can go outside and call them. You can go to a library. You can go and call them, and they will make assessment for you. Say, hey, I'm 13 years old. This is what's happening. What do I do? They will make assessment for you, and they'll send somebody in. Now, lastly, I want to touch on haters. We get haters at school. The haters continue into the workplace. They just change, right? How does the upbringing, I want to know, how does the upbringing impact on somebody's motivation to hate on other people, especially online?
Well, if you are brought up in a toxic environment and toxic dysfunctional home, your self-esteem is low. I mean, either you had violent parents and parents who neglected you, or who were overprotective over you. It doesn't matter. Your self-esteem is low, and when you become an adult, you can, or even earlier, you develop coping mechanisms to cope with this situation. You need to, you want to feel better, and you can do it 2 ways. You can either be submissive and like really agreeing with everybody, not setting boundaries, just doing what everybody else tells you to do, not being aware of your own needs. And the other way to deal with that is to actually total opposite. You dominate everybody else. You became a bully, basically. So, or a hater. So if you you know, come across a hater or a bully, just remember that they have low self-esteem. Somebody who is, you know, sure of themselves, who is strong inside, doesn't need to show other people that they are worse, you know, that they don't matter. You don't feel the need to hate if you're fine with yourself. So just mind that, you know, if you come across some hate in the internet or real life or wherever, just think that it's not about you. It's about the hater. He's talking about himself. It's his problems. It's his issues that he's expressing being a hater.
Well, very well said. Haters. There are different types of haters. I'd say there's attention-seeking one. There's a show-off one where he needs to show off in front of his friends, which is kind of attention-seeking. There's one that's very overcompensating for the hurt that they're feeling. So there's some different types. Now, thank you, Susanna, so much for your time, coming along, you know, sharing your knowledge, giving up your time for us, and, you know, helping. If it helps one person, then we mission accomplished for me, and I'm sure for you as well.
Sure.
And any final thoughts that you want to wrap up?
Yeah, guys, I just remember that you are good as you are. I mean, always be open to constructive criticism, because other people can notice things that you don't really notice about yourself. But if the behavior is toxic, if there is you know, bullying and hate involved, just mind that it's not about you, it's about the hater, and it's similar with the parents. So if you have such problems, just remember that nothing is wrong with you. You are great the way you are. Just keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, just dream and accomplish your dreams and plan, and just look to the future.
Yes, very, very well said. I would add to take the pain that you have. Let's say if you do have a pain, take that as a motivation to not be the same way, right? It's about turning the negative experience into positive experience. The reason why I'm sat here today, we don't get paid for this. The reason why I'm talking here today is because I had a negative experience, which I took all the energy, all the shit, and take it and turn it into positive, right? By lots of introspection, by lots of different work that I did with myself. And today I'm sharing my story. Susanna sharing her story. Susanna went from a very dysfunctional relationship into becoming a therapist to now helping people. So remember, just because you're in a bad situation, it does not mean that that's going to be all the time, and then you can do something about it. So with that in mind, guys, I'll see you next time. Susanna, thank you so much for your time. I will give you a call after, you know, just to say thanks in private, and all the best, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.